في حد يحاوس عليك يا سي محمد.
You look hot and miserable. Why have you traveled all this way?
We have business to discuss.
You have regular channels.
This involves Mulder.
Oh, this name. Again and again.
He's seen more than he should.
What has he seen? Of the whole, he has seen but pieces.
He's determined now. Reinvested.
He's but one man. One man alone cannot fight the future.
Yesterday, I received this.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Now let's get back to the lion path again. You're taking off from Chapter 5 of Destiny and Control, which is, as I recall, is the practical applications of understanding this structure of time.
And how we got into predatory time instead of symbiotic time.
You better explain that.
Well, the key to our nature system is who eats whom.
Yeah.
And we have peace movements. We say peace is wonderful all over the world, but nature doesn't believe us. Nature is not at peace. Nature is a constant war to the death. But with another side, a completely symbiotic side, where the plants breathe out oxygen, we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide, they do it. So there's beauty and then there's predatory quality. There is this very, very blood and tooth and claw quality about it. And it needn't have been. So the question arises, if we as good scientists could have planned a symbiotic biology, what went wrong, if anything? Mm-hmm. So these are the questions that Chapter 5 tries to probe.
And what are you suggesting in the lion's path is that there's an evolution towards something other than this dog eat dog, man eat man?
Yes, there is an evolution toward a completely symbiotic state. And the thesis is that human beings are not the last stage in evolution. It would be absurd to think they were, looking around us. But that there are vistas beyond us. A dog can look above and below. He can look down at an oyster and think it's very stupid, look up to his master like a semi-god. We can only look down. So what I'm saying is we can also look up, and we have to find out where these advanced stages are.
And are you also suggesting that through disciplines that we can somehow direct or control our own evolution?
Yes, I think that's the next step for man. Man is the only creature capable of symbolic manipulation and capable of this kind of control. In fact, they're trying to do it with genetic engineering, but they're going at it from the material side rather than from the psychic side, from the mind. And I think it can be done through the mind. Well, yoga, of course, taught that for many years.
Hey, welcome, Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, Servant of Truth with you once more. Thank you as always for being with me. This is just a actual quick insert of what will be the main body of the recording that I'll offer. I'm actually working through it at the moment and realized what I want to do is actually break it up into two components. But I'm going to do something different. If you're seeing this, haven't really worked out when I'm going to release it, but I might release this part 5 of my intuitive potential a day before, so it's there on the weekend, and I am going to offer a part 6 which I didn't talk about in this, and I've got more work to do on that after I complete this part 5. But the main body of what I want to get to is actually at the end of what will be part 6, a really big Michael Desarian clip that I feel will be very potent at the moment. But what I'm going to do is actually employ the US elections as an opportunity to really see where we are intuitively. But with where we are, alright, what I'm going to offer is the variables to recalibrate to actually ideally help you really engage, expand and power up your intuitive potential, right? But then with a bit of a training, but employing where we are at individually, like doing a self-assessment in the moment, and then when you go through this journey of these two, I feel it will be a really potent exercise to really take you to another level, right? So I hope that salivates your intuitive potential taste buds, right? But what I want to do is just say I'm aiming to make this actually 2 releases, and I'm probably going to do it 2 back to back, maybe both on the weekend days, separate days, or I might actually do the second part on the Monday US time, the day before the election, alright? But what I want to do is actually do a multi-level training in many ways, and just show you how much we've been up against, all the influence and stuff, and just, you know, the emotional mastery theme is a big one for me, and just really appreciate where we are, but also a recalibration sort of variable with how this particular event has influenced us all so much, which most of the world doesn't even know about. So I'm going to bring up some of the concepts I've talked about in the past and employ them here to help you splice up all the variables, so in the future you'll be a lot stronger intuitively and able to navigate these sort of events a lot better, right? So I'm just going to end this intro here and leave you with the main part So I really thank you for being here, and I really hope you get a lot from these two, as with all of my releases. Okay? Enjoy. Hey, you epic being. Thanks for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey once more. It's Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, Seven of Truth with you on this very auspicious, interesting, and epic times. I'm coming to you very early November 2024. So if you're here in the moment sort of when I'm doing the release with all the ingredients going on, thanks for being here. Thanks for being so vigilant and being here now. All right. If you're in the future and observing this and investing in this, there's going to be a couple of different sort of ways to approach this particular video. What I'm ultimately aiming to do is employ the ingredients of what's going on now with us in the moment as training variables, all right, relative to a lot of what I've talked about over the last few years, all right? Because I think it's a very exquisite time to sort of combine many things and employ what's going on in the reality narrative and stuff to ultimately, as this video will be probably called, our Intuitive Potential Part 5, navigating and ultimately breaking through the spiritual no man's land. So if you've been pretty consistent with me, this is the next in my Intuitive Potential series that grows on what I've and expands upon what I offered in our Intuitive Potential Part 4. It was a really massive release for myself. So if you've been really vigilant with myself for these last few years and all the concepts I've offered, ultimately I feel that this particular release will help gel it all together and really get your perception, mechanics and pattern recognition skills and algorithms all going really off the charts, employing the variables in the reality at the moment, because it's a very potent time, depending which area in the world you are. You know, some regions are in the trenches with it. Us in the other parts of the world, it's just a information variable, but I would offer it's actually affecting us at a whole much bigger level. And I feel that many of the components I've offered in the past that I'll reintroduce now, all combining together, will really help you endure and overcome it all, right? But also employ what's going on from an observer, different perspective, but you're in it. Maybe you're caught up in it, you don't even know, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, it's offering an experience variable, right? So then when you're in it and you separate it from it, you get the wisdom from that experience and stuff. But I've offered the recalibration series over the many years as well, and one of the variables I've offered in that is how much of what we're actually going through isn't us, right? So we got to bring our field in and really know thyself and stuff. And I think this, I'm using it, the language, the spell that's been going on for the last few years. It might be a variable that's been very difficult to splice up, but I feel with some of the moves and plays going on, how I'm in awe with what's going on, right? And it's not like I'm inferior to it. I'm appreciative of the mastery that's been going on, right? To actually, you know, a lot of the last, say, 12 months, 18 months, it's about us raising our bar to operate at the level that we've been up against and stuff. And so ideally what I'm going to do is help you raise your own bar once more. Maybe also, you know, I'm pretty tough and stuff and I demand a lot, right? But I also think it's a very potent time to sort of pat yourself on the back as well of enduring so much, right? And so much you probably don't know that you've endured, just instinctively being your nature, you know, the honorable, dignified, respectful, integrity-based sort of being that we've all sort of had this spiritual quest to find that variable in society when it's you know, it's actually potentially us and we're it, all right? And I've still, you know, I love that journey in perfection. It's a journey, it's not a destination. And I'm always looking to be better and improve and stuff. And where I'm at now, I feel very appreciative of, see, like the relentlessness and the resilience and stuff. And, you know, I've offered many of my journey components and stuff, and some of those nature aspects that, say, I not governed by money and stuff have been the thing that has got me through. And I've had the real honor and privilege of interacting with so many people that have so many of these ingredients, and that maybe there's a sort of subtle inferiority complex related to the variables out there that have been obstacles in the spiritual no man's land, that we're sort of, you know, this perfect storm of awareness of breaking through, and their relevance going forward is irrelevant, all right? And there's a lot going on in the multi-D, as I've said in the last video, which I really hope you invested in and enjoyed, Galactic Special Forces Part 35, where basically I offered the first component of just going to pure source itself and healing it, all right? So I only offered a big component of that, and there's a future release that will be the fuller one. And this event that this video is based around, which is the US election, all right? The before and after, all right? For myself, it was an interesting time to work within that, with all the brewing that's going on. And I'll look to offer the fuller component after it, with that variable removed. There's always going to be chaos and all sorts of stuff going on, but I think this particular time is very potent relative to an interference variable that's clouding people that they don't even know, all right? So I sort of said to people, just tool down and step back, because it is so vast and all that sort of stuff, all right? Things have got to play out, and but after it we'll see what happens, because what I'm going to introduce is a bit of an expanded contrarian view concept, because I'm going to employ the contrarian view relative to the momentums of things and where people are at, a bit of a multi-dimensional trader component relative to a teacher. So I'm going to aim to engage your intuitive trader pattern recognition navigation skills as well, right? So I've got a lot of clips as well, maybe I've shared a few, and ultimately what I want to get to is a pretty big Michael Tazarian component that he offered perhaps about 2006. So Michael Tazarian, it's Tsarion. He's, those of you that are veterans, I don't really need to say too much, but you relative rookies to all this stuff, right? Maybe less than 10 years, all right? Because us old school veterans, I know some people that have been around for decades. I'm a rookie compared to them, all right? So I'm just joking. So I offered a lot of components relative to a lot of things in my last few videos, and getting into the political sort of stuff, which is, I'm crossing my Ghostbuster streams of getting into these sort of things, but the reason of doing it is, when I say that, it wasn't really concepts I really wanted to get into in the trenches and stuff, but I feel I've got some perception awareness and angles that very few see, and I think if I offer them, it will be a bit of a catalyst of spawning your own and seeing what's on the other side, because I feel probably a lot of you have a lot of these variables, you just haven't put the pattern together or allowed yourself to do it. So thanks to Super A for allowing me to share GSF 34 and 35. I just offered in them how I can help people get clarity, you know. I talk about the clarity tech. I'm able to perceive sort of the unknown sort of thing, all right, rather than retreating in fear back to a very conservative perception, all right. So what I'll do is I'll just get into it now, all right. So I'll start by just exploring the contrarian view concept a bit, all right. So this is the contrarian view that I've shown many times. It's on my Instagram and all that sort of stuff. I don't really want to get into it, but the red is like the peaks and troughs. It's a wave, and there's a sort of a top and a bottom. And so when, just see from the trader perspective, this is a trend sort of thing, right? So when things are good, the trend rises. When things are bad, it falls, right? So I feel we've been on a very downward trend for a long time, right? And I'll get into a bit of an expansion of this, right? So say the T is the trader. The trader can indicate, like, has a sense of when things are going to shift, right? And I've said maybe 3 months ago, I was sensing it. The intuitive trader in me was sensing a trend shift, all right? As in, like, things can only go one direction. It takes a lot of energy, particularly in negative, right, to keep going, okay? So I felt like the energy to invest, falsehood is very costly. Truth and authenticity is very energy efficient, all right? So to maintain a negative trend is enormously costly, and it was just eventually going to shift, all right? But I think, like, the play at the moment, you know, people are caught up in it, and I just see a continuance of the same thing, all right? But I think things are going to get good, and what I want to do is just help people keep an eye on certain variables, all right? You know, a magic trick is distraction of the right hand while the left hand does the crime sort of thing, all right? So, yeah, just appreciate this, all right? Because what I'm wanting to do is do a bit of a training and a test as well, all right? So maybe you just want to pause this and get a piece of paper, all right, to write some notes down, all right? So just pause it here and get a pen and paper and just go with me on this, all right? And when you're ready, I'll talk about some stuff, all right? So what I'm wanting to do, right, is right now, before you go through this, do a brutally honest assessment of yourself, all right, relative to the future unfolding, all right? What I've said is about failure, all right? Failure isn't failure, all right? To me, failure has always been just a opportunity to recalibrate myself to what is versus what I perceive, right? And that gap, you know, relative to what is versus what I see, when you analyze it with that honest, authentic appreciation of where you were, then you can actually grow from that gap that you didn't get, and it can be an upgrade, if I use that language. So what I'm wanting to do is offer, just right now, the other thing is the trader, all right? It's a exquisite time for me to give you an experience of what it was like to currency trade. But then I've talked about the Flash Forward series from 2009, where everyone gets a vision of the future a year in advance, I think it was, 134 seconds, all right? And the future was so weird compared to the present. It was like abstract compared to the now, all right? And people were like, no way, you know, but eventually things unfolded and everything played out. It was really an amazing series, all right? But what I'm wanting to do is, trading is freaking tough, all right? And it's scary, and it's one of the most challenging things I've ever done. But what you have to do is, in the moment, the variables you get, appreciate them all, perceive them accurately, and execute, right? So why don't you just write on a piece of paper, maybe 4 boxes, just one with emotion, one with what you perceive, and just generally what you're feeling right now with how the things are going to play out. What's your energy level, how you're feeling, how you feel your growth has been and stuff, where you feel in life, the level of uncertainty you have going forth, all right? So just feel your life force level. Most people are at 10 or 15%, all right? So just give yourself out of 100 what you think, all right? Then like your emotional state, are you feeling love versus fear? If you're feeling in fear, is it affecting your perception, all right? I don't have the image relative to the perception mechanics with me right now. I've got a lot of moving parts, right? I might put it next to me, but just appreciate the middle box that I might have next to me. When you're in fear, it has a very consequential effect on the ability to absorb and process data, right? So when you're in fear and uncertainty, it contaminates the perception, and then you might retreat into being very conservative and not thinking outside the box, all right? So your algorithm is very reduced, all right? So just feel like your emotional state. You know, how do you really feel? Are you feeling extremely uncertain about the future? Are you calm? How is your body? Are you stressed? Are you armed up, like your adrenals triggered and stuff, right? All these emotional states can open up gaps in your psychic defense and things like that, right? And then the feeling insignificant against the vast majority and stuff, right? Not in control. Fate is out of our hands, you know? The uncertainty variables and the costs of living, and the bar has been raised on the demands of life and stuff, right? So just think about all them and measure them and write them down and just see how you feel and just put them now, right? Because if you just be brutally honest of how you really feel about yourself and do a self-assessment, okay? So just pause and take some time and think about it and just, like I said, be honest, right? And if you're in the future, you can do it as well, right? You can tune back into this moment, you know, the weekend before, the first weekend of November 2024, of how you truly felt, right? And just be honest with yourself, okay? I'm just going to show you a trend, all right? I've got this trading book that I used to use. It's really good. I'll show you the book and then I'll show you a page, and I'll have an image next to me, all right, of the actual trend. Because this is an idealist view. How it really is I'll give you an example. So this is one of my trading books that I had. I used to go to Borders when I was trading. I'd get like 10 or 20 of these and just devour them with a coffee, right? So it's a really good book, all right? I'm just going to open the page that I'm going to refer to quick, all right? So this is just a image relevant to the trends and the markets and stuff like that, alright? So it's a bit more of an accurate nature of how things are, and this one in particular with that, if you appreciate the contrarian view, how there's this, it's like a channel, but this one is broken out below, right? And I think this is a pretty cool metaphor of how it feels for a lot of people. You know, there's been this trend that's just like chipping away at being bad and uncertainty and all this sort of stuff, all the craziness that's going on, and creating a real fear-based milking of energy, uncertainty about the future and all this sort of stuff, right? And just the craziness and the extreme nature of all the BS going on and stuff, right? So it's a bit of a more realistic view. You know, we all go through ups and downs and stuff like that. We all might have, you know, expansions when everyone else is going bad, and we might go bad when everyone else is good and stuff. But this is a bit more of an accurate metaphor. So I hope you appreciate that, right? So what I'm going to do is show you another image that I've expanded on my contrarian view, right? So if you can see this, see I've got the metaphor of my other contrarian view that's the consistent one. So this is a expansion of the simple contrarian view concept that I have relative to traders and the human or herd. It's not meant to be derogatory or anything. It's just human nature tends to do the wrong thing at the wrong time, right? But the trader, you've got to be contrarian and appreciate all these variables and stuff. So as you can see, I've got that where it goes deeper, relating to the image in the book, alright, where potentially what happened in 2020, humanity went crazy down, you know, worldwide, the immigration sort of stuff has been ridiculous. There's been a real effort to destabilize most of humanity, and the cost of living's gone up and all sorts of stuff, right? And the legs down, you know, it goes up and it goes further down. It goes up, it goes further down. They're like relief rallies, and then the trend continues, right? So what I was saying about the life force cost of maintaining a very negative trend, like civilization is very resilient, right? So a lot of variables and ingredients and players have gone into this to create the perception of all this, so we actually experience it, when the nature of reality is ups and downs, right? You know, there's always good times and bad times, but it just feels like there's an ominous sort of feel of things, right? So right now, this weekend before the big US election and stuff, it's real peak extreme sort of uncertainty and all that sort of stuff, right? So I just want you to appreciate that. That's where we are at now. Maybe just feel how it's going to go, right? Because this is the metaphor of a trader in me, right? That I really appreciated. There's been a real, and this gets into the Michael Dzarian stuff about the people's champions, right?
And as a general rule of thumb, to those who have studied this and are also beginning their study in this, let's just realize when it comes to these power hierarchies at the top of the pyramid that I'm talking about, as a general rule of thumb, it's not 100% true, but it's about 90% true. If you happen to see the rulers, the controllers, the kings, the princes, the dukes in the media, that means in magazines and newspapers and in encyclopedias and so forth, and history books and on TV, chances are they are not the architects of the programs and the policies that they are instigating. They are just what I refer to as the people's champions. They're just what I refer to in the book as overworld figures. With very few exceptions, they are not the architects of doom. I have a DVD coming out next year called Evil's Willing Servants, which will tell you who are the architects. That's a sort of a missing piece. But just for now, know that if you see them on, the fact that you just see them on television, or the fact that you see them in the common media, they're lower henchmen. Never forget that. It'll empower you to know that, because they are not the henchmen. They're power, drugged, sick, perverted, toxic individuals who serve powers behind the scenes. There's no reason in the world to fear them.
And this gets into the Michael Dzarian stuff about the people's champions, right? There's a real swing and momentum, right, that's going on right now, that, you know, if you're caught up in it, you might just be hoping for relief of this crap, right? You might be given up and passive to everything going on, okay? Just because, you know, ultimately it feels like we don't have much control, and we're at the fate of all these variables that we have no influence over. And a lot of what's going on is to create that, right? But this is the guardian sort of kicking in of things, right? So say we've done a lot of big variables in the missions and stuff, like upgrading Earth to 22D, defending her, getting her solid. If you've explored GSF 35, like really removing a lot of the negative influence at the source level, right, stuff. So a lot of variables are on our side, but my BS meter is very much, and my discernment and my sensing there's something up, you know, I'm just wanting to offer that there's a variable of not trusting things, right? Even if things are good, to be discerning of things. There's a magic trick going on, and so to speak, right? So I'm just going to move on from this, but I hope you really appreciate that's where we're at. Okay. This is another expansion, and this is the way I feel it's going to play out. Right? So, like that book version that I showed you, and the falling and the rising, relief, and then the falling further, and the relief and falling further. Like I said about the life force invested to maintain a negative trend, it's unsustainable, right? And so this is where I'm really appreciative of the system. It's how masterful they are at human nature and stuff. Like, I'm in awe of what's being played out right now, right? How just at this momentous time, the momentum is really shifted, and the people's champions are revealing themselves, right? Because I want to invite that what's playing out has always been the plan all along, right? You might think it's just very organic and, you know, brewing for our betterment and stuff, but I would offer it's all by design, because from my perspective, they've had their foot on our neck for so long, you know. From an abusive level, we don't even know we're in abuse, right? We're just in it, right? On an energetic and sort of level, and you know, our intuitive potential is vast compared to what we are, right? Like, I've got the spiritual no man's land and the awareness journey and stuff, trying to get out of the box of all the masterful structure that we're up against, right? Don't even know it, and this is so out there, these concepts that I talk about, very few can appreciate it or sense it, but ideally all this time, right, to me it's just such a masterful, exquisite time to really appreciate all this and really sense it and see it and grow from it, right? But what I'm offering is, from my perspective, a lot of things coming out are, we're all able to hear what we want to hear, sort of thing. And to me, a lot of the pressures of the reality have brewed a lot of potential, so the trend is going to flip no matter what, right? But I would offer some really good things, and we're going to get a lot of relief in life, but just see the channel. To me, the peak isn't going to reach where the peak was before. We're so used to it being bad, we just want any relief. And I say we, humanity, the pure source beings, sort of in all this structure that I've talked about, right? But I'm offering that there's going to be like a relief, but then there's going to be a gap. And to me, that's what we're going to keep an eye out on. What are they going to do in the gap? Because the vast majority of people are just going to settle for relief and go back to normality and the patterns that we have been all along. And all this stuff is going to play out and play out and play out, right? So you might think this time is different, but I would offer my concept of pattern recognition. The menu unique, the outcome common. The menus of this time and all that are like they are all the time unique, but the pattern is common, okay? So we just leave this here, and I want to introduce many other concepts and combine them. But what I might do is offer a pretty cool Val Valerian clip. If you're old school and into my Conscious Explorer series, then I employed him quite a bit. This clip is from 1992, and this guy wrote the Matrix books. That you can search Matrix books and get them. They're like 1,000 pages each and stuff. And to me, they're 30, 35, close to 40 years old, some of them now, but we're still catching up to what's in them and stuff. So I'm just going to show you this clip, alright? That to me, there's many variables in it that I really want you to appreciate and take away. Just think about intuitive potential, psychic defense, and all those sort of things, alright? And I'll let you hear them, the variables there. I'm not going to talk about them, it's up for you, your pattern recognition and perception skills, alright? Because I'm sort of offering all this like a conscious Tetris training, right? And I might just show you that image. So a lot of this is like, I'm aiming to solidify a lot of the upgrades you probably don't even know you've got by the investment you've done, trying to endure the big spell that we're going through, right? Because I feel, like I said, there's going to be a lot of relief, right? And pat yourself on the back of what you endured, right? because I think you don't know what you know or are because of how vast and masterful this thing is going on at the moment, alright? So I just want to show you another image before I get into the vowel clip, alright? This is that image I've shown you many times about the resistance and the parabolic crossover of, say, the collective, us individually and stuff, right? If you go back to that sheet of paper that I suggest you write on and stuff, maybe in one of the boxes just put down like how you perceive your intuitive development, where you are on your intuitive level and stuff, right? And just pause this and put it down, right? Where you might be, like maybe even just draw this quickly and draw on the green line where you think you are, okay? And pause it. So I'm always about being humble and appreciate how vast things are in the unknown and stuff like that, okay? But what I want to invite, I feel, is many people into this territory, especially if you've been with me, you know, and let go a lot of the concepts and integrated a lot of the variables into your own pattern recognition. You're probably really breaking through, alright, to get here. But maybe you feel like you're back there, alright, and you have no idea. And you're like, what's this Aussie Hodge frecker telling me how I'm good and I feel so shit and stuff, right? I feel that the equation relative to where you are versus where you feel you are, that's the variable of what's going on at the moment. That's how much it's impacting you without even knowing it. Relative to the recalibration and not knowing thyself, right? And how I said about 98% of stuff potentially affects us that isn't us. But what is it? How do we splice it all up, right? So this video is, I'm aiming to be a big ally to helping you get through that. And I think it's probably going to be a couple of videos. It's going to be really long with all the components because I'm ultimately wanting to get to this really big Michael Dezorian clip, right? That ideally helps you see the patterns of society and how masterful this system is, and then being an outlier to it, right? So I'm just going to get into the Val Valerian clip that's about 7 or so minutes, and it's very good, right? And I'll see you on the other side.
People in general, Scott, over the past year or two have been feeling more and more psychic, if you will, impulse. We're picking up on more things, and to the degree that they are doing this, the powers that were are trying to, have been trying to suppress this, both by putting stuff into the food, water, electronically, and otherwise. I mean, look at the cellular telephone system, for instance. 840 to 890 megacycles. That just happens to be the same resonant frequency of the human skull. These people know what they're doing.
The last question I have is to make this shift in humankind, I guess, easier on more people. What would your suggestion be?
Well, they're going to go through it anyway, whether they like it or not. Whatever new world order that's going to exist, in whatever form it's going to exist, is going to be very short-lived. To make it easy for people in general, I guess the best advice that I could give is learn how to become calm and centered within yourself. Understand that social consciousness operates from the first three structural areas of the brain, okay, involving security, sensation, power, and fear.
Oh, our amphibian brain, so to speak.
The reptilian brain is the first
reptilian brain,
right.
Thank you.
So if you can really get rid of the idea of fear and become more conscious and aware, sure, you're going to do it on a cultural level. You're going to do it on a political level. You're going to understand what's going on around you. But that's the first step. The second step is to become more conscious, to become a conscious being, to get out of this sleeping thing.
So we're all trying to become more than human, basically. That's what's happening.
No, you see, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience.
What are we?
We're spiritual beings having a human experience.
It's a whole different directional.
Indeed. You can engage the social drama to whatever level that you wish. In other terms, it's a game. Okay? It's a learning experience, and through your experience, you gain wisdom, which doesn't have a polarity, and from that you gain your personal truth. Okay? Everybody wants to know what's disinformation, what's true, what's not true, and you know what people believe. Don't believe anything. You know, beliefs have nothing to do with experience. If you experience something, then you know it. There's a big difference there. If you believe believe something, you can be manipulated. You know.
But I guess you have the experience, and then you're going to need to interpret it somehow. You're going to need to make reference to it. You're going to need to understand it.
And that's part of the deal, because when you're trying to interpret the experience, what do you interpret it with? You interpret it with previous experience. And that previous experience is loaded with predispositions, beliefs, conflicting beliefs,
baggage,
a whole bunch of baggage.
Mm-hmm.
And things out there, and this might seem kind of a strange way of saying it, things out there have absolutely no meaning except the meaning that you give it. So, I mean, two people could look at something. One says it's good, one says it's ugly, one says it's Republican, one says it's Democrat. But it isn't any of that. It simply is. And
so
the meaning you project out on it, you have to understand how consciousness works. And if people really understood who they were, they wouldn't do what they do to each other. And that's why everything political, all this political stuff on that level, is really a no thing in the end. I mean, what is voting? Go out and vote. What's vote? What is voting? Voting is saying, govern me. There's no provision made in this culture for people to become autonomous.
So I guess you have to go figure out a way to do it on your own. That's true autonomy, then.
It's happening already. If a planet is in unity consciousness, it doesn't need a government per se.
Or at least a very different one.
People very often get tied up in the idea of good and bad, positive and negative. But what they're there for, being part of one thing, is for timing. The timing is always perfect. Push ahead, retard, push ahead, retard.
Or you could say
timing factors.
They say that's how we walk. You know, one foot rests while the other one moves, and that one rests while the other one moves.
Yeah, the difference on a cultural, political level between the idea of positive and negative is that positive acknowledges the whole being value of self and spirit, if you will. The negative polarity attempts to replace that with ego aggrandizement, okay, for security, sensation, and power. And that's exactly what all the media and all the cultural programming and everything circulates around, is aggrandizement of the ego or the alter ego. And
that's what Verne says. It's just feeding on its own pathology. It's just perpetrating the pathology.
And yes, and deep down inside, people know, they know something's wrong. They have an essence. They suspect certain things, but having no other reference point, they're not willing to make that little leap. They shouldn't be afraid to make that leap. They are the path, you know. They have more in common than they suspect. You know, consciousness is the name of the game, not politics.
Well, then what's stopping people? A lot of people aren't being stopped, and the paradigm shift is, you know...
Because they have fear. They're basically culturally conditioned and...
Well, by the name of your book, you would assume that you believe that we have a little help in maintaining fear, having a little encouragement from outside.
Yes. From part of the negative hierarchical structure, yes.
Perpetrating itself just in its own dynamics?
Yes. I mean, they're trying to cause as many unaligned people to align themselves in that direction, to supply more energy to that resonance, as it were. But that resonance is self-defeating.
Is it a conscious situation on their part, or is it just part of the dynamics of that mindset?
It's a perfectly conscious situation on their part.
Mm-hmm.
And You really have to understand what the positive-negative hierarchy thing is all about. You really need to understand what that's about, what the idea of positive and negative conceptually is about while you're viewing everything dualistically in order to really understand what unity means.
Welcome back. Cool clip, hey. Interesting, some variables in there. I won't say them, alright? But you heard them. If you did, you did. If you didn't. So, just moving along. One of the other variables I wanted to offer relative to what's going on and say people in the community and all this sort of stuff is relative to salespeople, alright? So, this is no offense to any of you guys that are out there doing sales. Ideally, a good salesman in negotiation wants a win-win for everyone. I know from my background being an IT engineer, I had to work with salespeople. In many respects, they were cultivating opportunities for a business for me to say as an engineer, go out and work with and contribute and fix or repair and stuff. Or I as an engineer, with my appreciation of things, working with clients, realizing the scenarios they were in and the risks that they had, say with old equipment and stuff, I could identify sales opportunities and I'd pass them on to the sales rep relative to the client. So I really get the sales business and stuff and appreciation of the variable in it. But it was very interesting in dealing in my city of Adelaide, where there was a old school mentality and you can't get away with crap in our city, right? Relative to the big city in Sydney, where it's more finance driven, if that makes sense, right? And the thing with salespeople is that, say if you're in a business and you're being run by a boss and stuff and you're in the sales department, then the boss would set you targets to aim for and stuff, right? So every quarter they might want you to sell certain things or certain volume or make numbers, like sell $1 million worth of stuff. And part of your salary would be based on that, right? So there's a vested interest on you selling something, right? And say in IT, your corporation might be working with Microsoft and you sell Microsoft stuff and then you get a bonus relative to how much you sell. So part of your wage is relying on that, but if you make it, then you might get a commission, which is a lot like a bonus and stuff, right? So what we're dealing with is a lot of exquisite and chunky salesmen, alright? So I might show you this pretty funny clip of this TV show from the 90s, from the 80s and 90s. It was a comedy series, alright? There's two guys there. It might be a bit of a rough clip because there's not much out there, but it might give you an idea. And then I might show you a clip from a movie with Eddie Murphy, alright? It's all about dodgy politics sort of stuff, right? So enjoy. I'll see you on the other side.
Mothers! Yes! It's Mother's Day! And everything must go! Unwind, Dodgy! Hey, sir! Arthur! And I love your mother! So do I! So bring her down! Bring your mum down to the Dodgy Brothers Crazy Clearance! Mother's Day! Total half price! Closing down! Special Mother's Day! Moving out! Moving out! Somewhere else! Soon! In a hurry fast! Yes! So grab your mother! And a checkbook and a bank card! And have a talk to Arthur, the Discount King! I'm Arthur, the Discount King! And he's gone crazy! Yes, I've gone crazy! Yes, crazy, crazy, crazy! So am I! And he won't be beaten on value! That's right, I won't be beaten on value! All these Mother's Day gifts have got to go! Lawnmower blades! Lawnmower blades! Yes, crowding me! Crowding a mother special! Blackhead removers! Blackhead removers! Yes, the blackhead removers! Imagine your mother if she gets this! Yes! An economy-sized drum of paint stripper! What every mother needs! And of course, 3.5-inch hose bits! We won't be beaten on hose bits! What do we say, Dudley Brothers? We're the largest warehouse full of 3.5-inch hose bits in the Southern Hemisphere! All colours available, Arthur! And remember, we're still doing good deals on cats! Yes, if your cat needs doing, do it, Dodgy! The Dodgy Show! everything. Just leave your mother with me for 24 hours and I'll give her a time she never forgets. So come on down. Or ring this number now. 00683477 now. Our lines are open. Ring now and we'll throw in this Prince Lorenzo and Lady Primrose commemorative ball. That's right. We have moved. That number has changed. The number is now 88336688. Repeat, the number has changed. Ring now and we'll throw in 22 crates of this classic New Guinea Cabernet Sauvignon. And Frontignacs. Remember, we have moved again. We have moved. That number has changed. Yes, that number has changed. 0038648836. I'll give your mother the time of right. You bring her down. Bring the old man too. Remember, that number has changed. Nelson Mandela is free! East Germany is free! The Dodgy Brothers! Oh, why Dodgy? He's Arthur! Arthur announced where? Out! Back! Out! Again! 3 after 6 years! In Her Majesty's time-sharing resort! Hey, nothing! And we're still making cheaper commercials because they're cheaper to make! And we've gone crazy! Yes, so have I! And all these beautiful cars have got to go! In a hurry! By this afternoon! Now! So come on down! Hurry! And we'll throw in vodka! And maybe you can find the usual this! And we'll do a special deal on these Walkman radios! And for the little lady, hairdryer, or thinking of starting your own disco? Yes, so hurry! Remember, there's a Dodgy Brother up a Burwood Highway near you, so hurry!
Are you sure you don't want to come to Washington with us, Homer?
I got a business to run.
Bye-bye.
Hello? Who? League of Women Voters. No, Mr. Johnson will not attend the debate. No, I'm sorry, Betty. I cannot tie up this line. Thank you. Hello? Star Ledger. No, we're fresh out of photographs of Mr. Johnson. No, you can't. He's just had surgery for a deviated septum. Yeah, thank you. Hello?
Yeah? This is Inga.
Cast your vote for Jeff Johnson. Good old Jeff. A name that you can trust. A name that you know. Jeff Johnson.
Why you no vote Jeff Johnson? He the name you know. Go down vote for Jeff. Jeff Johnson, the name you know. Hey, you eating the greens. And you on the cornbread. Put that down and cast your vote for Jeff Johnson. The name you know. You know it's good. Jeff is good. Just like them greens. Jeff and greens. When you think greens, think Jeff Johnson.
In this Meshuggah world, you wanna vote for Jeff Johnson. I don't know why I gotta come drive through here and tell you this. You should know who to vote for. We're voting for Jeff because he's a good person. What, are you crazy?
We're not gonna show you Jeff Johnson waving a flag. And we're not gonna show you Jeff Johnson kissing babies. We're not gonna show you Jeff Johnson doing anything because you already know what Jeff Johnson can do. Tomorrow, vote Jeff Johnson, the name you know.
That sound white enough?
That was very white.
Yeah, that's chilling, actually. I'm just scared myself.
Fantastic. Tomorrow, vote Jeff Johnson, the name you know.
Who do we vote for Congress?
Don't we always vote for Johnson?
That's it, Johnson.
If you're just joining us, our exit polls project that in Florida, an unknown independent candidate whose sole asset appears to be his name may just possibly win a slim victory.
Is that him? Is that him? Tricia, I believe the Congressman-elect Johnson has just arrived. We need to get through, please. Come on. Thank you. Wait a minute! Hey! Thank you! Thank you so much! People, we ran a positive campaign. We campaigned on the issue. The issue is change. Change for the future. The people have spoken. Ask not what your country can do for you. You have nothing to fear but fear itself. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Live free or die. And in conclusion, read my lips.
Mira.
Promised Land.
Dodgy Brothers. So I just want to offer you those clips. So maybe you have them in your pattern recognition as a background variable of when you come across anyone and listen to their words and stuff. Maybe you had an idea of that. It was very ambiguous and it was hard to solidify, and now you know it. You sent a Dodgy Brothers in the house, all right? But it's very important because salespeople can be very charismatic. They might tell you what you want to hear, all right? They know what you want to hear to get an outcome that they want, all right? So there's some very masterful salespeople that have been very successful in the world that are lining up to perhaps change things, that have a vested interest that, like I said on that contrarian view, if I just show you it again, the vested interest is that gap, all right? It doesn't line up, okay? So now I just want to help you appreciate the variable that I was offering relative to how big this spell, and I'm just going to use spell because I want to get to the point, all right? Going back a few years, I did a Amplify the Echoes Part 6, which is Chaos 19, all right? And in that I put a lot of components, all right? And I want to put many of the components again in this, all right? Bring them to the fore again because they're very much variables of going on, all right? So one of the things I might be showing is going through the Chaos 19 stuff, I realized it was affecting, say, my prefrontal cortex. And what I realized about the reality and us in it, all right, is I appreciated that when that, going through that, I felt the disconnect of the subtle collective sort of background. And I might be showing the image that I might be relative to the overlays of the multi-D that I employed relative to an Itzhak Bentov video clip that I'll employ in a sec, right? But what I realized in the Chaos 19 is that a couple of things. A, human nature, or our natural way of living, we're all on a subtle level connected to a multi-dimensional collective, all right? That from my perspective had sort of the moral code and all that sort of stuff in it. and what happened from the Chaos 19 sort of stuff affecting our prefrontal cortex. That's what the era that I went through affected. I feel it's a deliberate scrambling going on to create that chaos in the head, to then be a beacon into it and actually feed a uncertainty variable into the collective that a lot of us are actually picking up. Or I've been aware of this. It's a variable that's been added to the equation that we've had to endure without even knowing it, because the intuitive potential of humanity is the biggest threat, right? And that's what it's been all along, to suppress that. Because once we break out of the spiritual no man's land that I've sort of offered in the past concepts, and I'll just show you that image now. All right. This is the awareness journey that I've used many times, of going through the journey. And this whole realm is the spiritual no man's land that I'm talking about, that I've offered in the past video, part 4 of our intuitive potential. But I'll just move on quick. This is the spiritual no man's land. So this is what we're aiming to overcome to get to the other side, right? This is an image I employed in Influences Part 4, and I was contemplating putting this release or releases as a part of the Influences series, and it is very relevant to that. But I thought it would be more potent of employing as a intuitive potential teaching, training, sort of navigating the spiritual no man's land would be more potent, alright? And this is more of what it's like, alright? But what I'm getting to is the Chaos 19 was an ingredient added to this to add to the variables that we've actually had to overcome. The reason why I'm employing the metaphor of the Chaos 19 now is it feels like on top of the Chaos 19, this election has been heavily influencing us, and it's been another ingredient on top of all this stuff that we've had to endure, alright? So what I'm just going to show you is the Itzhak Bentov clip, alright? Which is a very cool teaching. Unfortunately, Itzhak died in a plane crash in 1979 and we lost him very early, alright? But I've employed this in the past, and I'm just employing it now relative to our prefrontal cortex, okay? Of how our ability to sense and sonar the way through has been obfuscated, right? With all these variables, right? So enjoy. I'll see you on the other side.
What is it that is evolving? Now, you talked about the nervous system evolving, right? But is there something else that is evolving that is able to be sensitive to this higher level of reality?
We have this notion of a soul. You know? Most people won't talking about the soul. It's a kind of non-physical thing, highly theoretical. And so when you go to church, you take this soul out of the closet and polish it up a little bit, and then you go to church and you had one with your soul. Then you come back and put it back in the closet till next week. So that's about the idea of a normal person, the soul. But actually that's not the case. I mean, we don't have souls, but it's just the other way around. The soul has us. So that is that thing that evolves, the permanent, eternal thing is the soul, and the body is a kind of disposable thing. That is, you know, you use a body like a car for 80,000 miles, 100,000 miles, and you junk it, and that's it, you get another one. So it's the driver is the soul who uses the body for a while, and then he runs it into the ground, and he gets another one sooner or later.
And so it's the soul which is experiencing evolution, and not our personality, not our physical existences.
That is, the soul is the repository of information that we gather during a lifetime. Well, I'll tell you, maybe we should draw another diagram. Physical bodies are here, another physical body, and this is Joe, and this is Jim, and this is Sarah, etc. Now, clearly, on the this is the physical level, yeah? Now, on this physical level, we are separate. You sit there, and I sit here, and we're all separate. Now, let's draw another level. This level is slightly higher, and let's call this the level of the soul, yeah? Well, there will be some mingling here. Let's draw this person as extending to practically infinity this way. Now look what happens. At the physical level, we're separate, and there's this much distance between us. Let's say that on the soul level, this person extends this much, and the other person gets slightly mixed in with him. That is, the souls are, in a way, in touch with each other. Okay, they overlap, these two lines. Now let's go now to a higher level, and let's call this, say, the level of the higher self, which is kind of a boss of that soul. There, what we find is that this fellow's higher self extends this much, and the other fellow's extends this much. There is more overlap between them.
Right.
On the very highest level, which is the high spiritual level, we are basically overlapping completely. Everybody is overlapping everybody else. In other words, everything and everyone is everywhere. In other words, we've become omnipresent. This is a state of highly spiritual perfected beings, or gods, you may call them. Okay?
Okay, and so that we exist on all of those simultaneously.
On all of those simultaneously,
So then,
but we're not aware of that.
In your view, then, if when we see each other as separate entities, that's only seen on one plane of reality.
Correct. And so whether we like it or not, we're all evolving towards godhood. But, you know, it takes eons, so don't hold your breath.
Is that the purpose of evolution?
Naturally. Because at that point, you start understanding how the system works. And one of the good things about this system is that the system wants to teach you about itself.
What does it want to teach
It's a good system.
you? Yeah? What does it want to teach you?
Well, if you are omnipresent and you're all-knowing, that is the state which the system wants you to be in. Because the system is an intelligence or information gathering system. And it's also freely distributing that information.
Welcome back. Very cool clip, hey? So, I might have the prefrontal cortex images relative to the Chaos 19, alright? So, I'm offering it now relative to the trader in us to appreciate it, alright? You might not be able to splice it up now, but I will offer that after all this event plays out, then how you feel now, before it, versus after it, that equation you can associate with that sense that you get, right, as being a variable in the clouding of us, right, of affecting the collective. Because what I've appreciated for a long time, and I'm really seasoned at, you know, separating all the separate variables, you know, as I've offered, say, in GSF 35 about identifying the components in real time and stuff. I think one of the skills I have is appreciating of the variables at play and trusting my instincts in the moment of what I get, right? But not being fearful of them. And this goes back to that trusting myself and being able to fall back on myself as a healer and stuff, which I really commend a lot of you guys that have actually invested in that to become your own healer in these last few years. If you've taken on my advice, I appreciate it, alright? But I'll just go back to another image, okay? Because I offered this relative to where we're actually at, and I said a lot of you are probably there, but you feel back there, and this variable that's going on with the election magic sort of spell is a variable that's not allowing you to see where you truly are because you haven't been able to isolate it, right? And it's good to do now because from my perspective things are played out where a lot more is obvious, where the plays are really revealing themselves of how the show goes on sort of thing, and it will keep going on. A lot of people are in, they've been through a lot and they're over it sort of thing, and they just want relief, and then they'll drop their guard sort of thing. The guardian in me is like, this is all set up on a much larger scale than we can appreciate. Like the People's Champion clip that I might have shown at the start, right? The players are being supported to build the momentum for things to play out, how things are going to play out. But there's a lot of variables going on that I just don't trust, okay, me personally. And that's up for you to decide, but, this is on the eve of an election. Everyone is sort of thinking, oh, this time will be different. But when has it ever been different, all right? I'll just offer that and I'll move on, okay? So, what I want to do is just pull back a little bit and look at a bigger scale of things, right? Relative to a few big things that are playing out now. Because the BS meter detector is sort of, the slick salesperson and telling us what we want to hear sort of thing to us to buy into the BS, alright? There's a bit of a play going on, I think, at the moment, and what I said about the trend being so extended and so overspent, most people are so life force drained and their lives are being affected and stuff, they'll just buy into any relief, alright? So it's just a very masterful spell going on, alright? So what I want to do is just, as I said, pull back a bit. I'm going to show you an image, okay? So this image I'll have next to me, alright? And it's about that, alright? The A word, alright? I'm not going to say too much. But this is, the last 50 years, alright? And this is sort of what went on recently, alright? So there's a big ingredient variable that's been going on, okay? And if you step back and look at everything, to me, all the stuff that was going on in the different areas, and many of you might be more experts in this, I'm just using it as a pattern sort of thing. To say, if you've gone into Len Horowitz, then you know about all this stuff, right? Remember, I'm old school, I've been through a lot of people and that. But he went into that era of what went on then, alright? But then there's all these different eras, and I was going to draw them as little boxes, but I thought I'd add them as a recipe sort of thing, because they're all combined into that. And these different eras of the pattern where the experiment's going on. Say to me, like when you see kids, they're addicted to their phones and stuff. Well, part of the testing of the Internet of Bodies was different eras of this stuff to see the results on a spliced up variable, right? So all the different tests went on to combine, okay, from my perspective, and this is a bigger scale, right? So then there was one person that was across it all the eras, right? And even some of the BS I heard on the weekend, say Joe Rogan had an interview, right? And it was like there was a covering of a justification for sort of things, okay? And sure, alright, the apparatus of the government is massive, alright? But I would just offer, someone making a lot of money in this world, alright? If you're truly against all the system and stuff, do you think you'd have billions of dollars, right? Would you be a people's champion, okay? Supported and nurtured by the system, but it couldn't be a total nurturing by the system. It's got to be an opposite to the system. And this gets it into the really big Michael Tazarian clip that I will offer in the future. might be too long for this video, so I might be breaking it up, right? But yeah, this is all the eras and all the building to what went on for the Internet of Bodies and stuff. The person that was behind it, and this top layer is all the things that are going on relative to now, right? The colors and all this sort of stuff that were all across it. To me, saying they didn't know what was going on, you know, I would offer, to me, it's a bit of, I'm just seeing the masterful play going on, right? Sure, this stuff was going on, and how do you overcome it? And the plays and the scales of things, perhaps they are good and all this sort of stuff, but I'm offering, I feel, a continuation of things going on, and going back to that other image, like I said about the trend being so overspent, right? People are overspent and just want relief, and so the system is going to give it to us, right? So then we lower our guard, and a lot of the magic tricks are going to go on, right? Because, say, from my perspective, a lot of the variables that the people's champions put in our face and stuff, that have even apparatuses that are on our side, some of the stuff they're doing is actually totally in alignment with, say, 15-minute cities and Agenda 21, right? Like autonomous cars and pool sharing of cars and stuff like that. You know, a lot of the electric vehicles are microwave ovens. They're so unhealthy, and even where the driver sits, it's the most connected, most intense, right? If you've had the chance on Telegram to see some of the videos that bypass the censorship and stuff, right where the driver sits is the worst position to be in the cars, right? So, and then, you know, some natural disasters sort of happen, and then someone's in there to swoop in and do the good thing to get a good publicity sort of thing, alright? So, to me, just going back to the other image, for me appreciating all this, like I said, some things seem too good to be true, alright? I offered the pattern recognition mechanics. The menu is unique, but the outcome is common. So this time, there's different players, different motives, a business sales background, getting control sort of thing, to approach things in a different way. Like I heard Trump talk about bringing tariffs in, and to me they're a good variable, alright? And people pleasing with getting rid of income tax maybe and all this sort of stuff, right? But in Australia, back in the late 80s and early 90s, a Prime Minister called Paul Keating brought in the World Trade Organization, the WTO agreements that basically destroyed the middle class and manufacturing in Australia. And we had one of his famous comments is the recession we had to have, and interest rates went up to 17%. House prices went through the floor and stuff like that. It really rocked our economy because it got rid of a lot of the tariffs, because it was hooking Australia into the globalization sort of play that's gone on all these eras and stuff, right? So I just offer that, right? The bigger scale appreciation of what's going on, right? The other thing right now, right, is there's a repeated pattern that's subtly different. Like the menu before versus now is different. So going back to 2012, right, that was Obama's second term. And if you guys are around then, it was I just missed the momentum and being naive going into spirituality with how good it felt. Like we're all going on an adventure to improve things and stuff, and how awesome a setup for failure that was, right? So when I get to the really big Michael Zarian clip, it might be really interesting, right? Because it was done in 2006, but it's very relevant to now, the patterns and stuff, and it goes back an era before this politics that I'm sort of saying. But what I'm wanting to get here is, in 2012, relative to Obama, if you recall, Obama, the person they always wanted in charge, right? He went up against Sarah Palin and John McCain, right? So you remember a younger female and an older guy, right? That really had no hope of winning, right? So just see the pattern now. There's a younger female and an older guy, right? You know, it's different parties and all this sort of stuff. But I'm just offering it as a ingredient relative to going back to this other image. Relative to the playing out of what is wanted, right? Like it just seems the brewing of it, everything is going that way, right? You know, the underdog going against all the corruption and all this sort of stuff, right? So the relief on return to justice sort of thing and all this sort of stuff, and that. One of the variables that we did in some of the GSFs is we restored the moral code, sort of higher level sort of things relative to that excite bent off. But I would just offer things are still in control and that, right? So yes, there can be good things go on, and eventually, ideally, all the big multi-dimensional galactic special forces stuff we've done percolates through, and all the audits that we do and all this sort of stuff plays out. I'm just offering that we deserve better, and if things turn out better, then awesome. But just be aware of this in the background of don't drop your guard sort of thing, right? So what I want to go back is to the other image. Okay. So one of the concepts I offered a couple of years ago was Discordianism, right? And what I feel is, and I've always appreciated is, you know, it doesn't take a lot of genius to make good decisions. It just takes context and the truth. And so the obfuscation of the truth has been one of the big variables that have gone on to us, right? And also the self-implementation of self-censorship and all this sort of stuff, right? Where the wildfires used to rage of awareness back in 2012 and before. 2016 was when they started implementing the censorship sort of stuff, and they were using players in the community and stuff as variables of that, say of deplatforming Alex Jones and stuff like that, right? So there's all these plays going on that are the masterful play going on, right? That's at a level that very few can appreciate, right? And then we've got the people in the community and stuff like that, right? So I'll just do a bit of a tangent here actually, okay? Because I'll bring up what I offered in Amplify the Echoes Part 14. I'll do a bit of a quick overview, okay? Hey, thanks for being here. So if you're seeing this, and what I've done is interrupted the flow of what I was offering in the whole body, because it was getting a bit late and I was in a good flow, but what I realized in my flow, which went quite long, obviously I enjoy building myself up and getting into that flow to be able to put all the variables together. In this particular teaching that I'm aiming to employ the world events to help expand your intuitive potential, right? There's a lot of ingredients, and I'm got a lot of perception plate spinning sort of algorithm variables processing in parallel here. So it was a quite demanding one to sort of hold together and stuff, and I was really happy with it, but it got a bit dark and I had a fair bit to go, so I've got to do more recording at this point. But what I want to do is just end this here. As I said at the start, I'm thinking of doing 2 releases very close together, aiming to get them out before the US election. I think it will be very potent for you guys that are pretty hardcore with me to have all these components right now to really appreciate what is going on and see through it, and then it will be a very... I got Mozzie spotting me here. It's going to be a very potent teaching, training, information variables, I feel, around, right, to really help you in the future see all the angles that you potentially don't even know that you can go to, right? So what I'm just going to do is end this here, and I'm going to look to offer the second part of this, of my intuitive potential part 5 and 6 of navigating and, in brackets, overcoming the spiritual no man's land, right? We are epic, guys, okay? So I'll probably offered a pretty cool Michael Zarian clip about that here, but the main one that I'm going to offer later is really, really rich, okay? So thanks for being here. I really hope you get a lot from this. I hope you invest in the next one. And until next time, Andre out.
So this action of Shiva, or Pluto, is what the Hopis describe as Koyanets Katsi. Fake life. Imbalanced life that calls for another way of being. It's a divestiture. What the alchemists call calcinatio and dissolution. It's a different kind of action than probably what we're used to, until we get savvy about it and understand its nature. But one thing also to understand is this, that Pluto is on its way, period. You can't stop the action of nature. Because, as I said, Pluto represents nature's hygienist, a psychic surgeon, come here to test our immunity. So the only trick is that you go with it. It's here to bring about a chemical divorce. It's here to understand if we have grasped this law of deconstruction. So you can either go through it willfully, or, as the tarot beautifully describes, it will occur in a more violent way. So you do get a choice. But if the system is too rigid, you see? If the complex, if the structures, if the lie is far too rigid and the toxicity too much, then the tower shows you later on what will happen. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're into the realm of symbolism and metaphor, you will realize that America has already had its warning. But if you have no symbolic literacy, then you don't see it. You just accept it on the face value of an event in time and space. But when you start to step back from that canvas of life, you'll start to realize we are being given our little warnings about what's coming. Even the media, the ad copy, we're being told a lot of amazing, interesting things if we know how to look at it. We've been talking about time and cycles all the way through this presentation and how important they are. As we saw, Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to stop from facing their souls. You've heard me put it differently. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to stop facing their shadow self. And that's an enormous problem. You won't face it, but you will project it on somebody else and curse them out and then destroy their innocent lives, or not so innocent, by your projections. That you can manage to do. But see, Shiva, the dynamic has changed. Shiva is the shadow. So to attain true enlightenment is to return to selfhood, right? But did you see in the schemata that we had? Do you see that? That between the ego and the self, to get there, you have to pass through the shadow realm. You might want Shakti because she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. She's real. But you've got to pass through Shiva first. So that's why all this elaboration. Because yes, there is a selfhood. There is a place to return to. But you can't do it without integrating your shadow. You must pass through the cycle of the underworld. And all civilizations do it. And we know that is happening because of the movement of the archetypes. Vernon Howard put it this way. Human sickness is so severe that few can bear to look at it. But those who do will become well. And a picture of the man on the left is Ezra Pound, America's greatest poet. A great teacher, if ever there was one, on these shores. He was locked up for 13 years in Bellevue Mental Asylum. This is what America does with its teachers.
And every day that his wife came to visit him in those years, she was searched at the door. Even after everyone knew he's a cool guy, he's all right, he's been locked up erroneously or whatever, because he suffered for what he taught. But still, the guards searched his wife. Then a young man who believed that he had been hard done by, out of the millions of his friends who let him down, and the world who didn't peep, a man by the name of Eustace Mullins took himself up to Bellevue and said, I want to interview this terrible super racist, this fascist, this maniac, this conspiratorialist. But he was at one point, and in any book today, in Who's Who, he's the greatest poet that America ever produced. With Wallace Stevens and Sylvia Plath coming afterwards, in my opinion. So Eustace Mullins goes up there, and Ezra basically just pulls out a dollar bill and goes, get your ass back down to that Library of Congress where you work and research this dollar bill until you know the meaning of all the symbols on it. Take it easy. Eustace Mullins did exactly as he was told and started to find out what the raving lunatic Ezra Pound had been saying, and then wrote many volumes, which I hope that American people are very familiar with. Why am I saying this? Is because we have to have some relief to ourselves. We must give ourselves a little bit of credit. The things that we're discovering and studying in the conspiratorial movement is very, very recent. This is what I'm talking about is just after the Second World War. And then Mullins starting to write, his books up through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then you've had a few others. See, in England and Europe, we've had a few other authors, like the Nesta Websters, going a little bit back, and so on. But in an American context, the fact that we, as ordinary people, even have an Alex Jones, or anyone, is a miracle to me. It is brilliant. So when you're getting pessimistic and you're seeing and fatalistic, you see, and horrified, for a moment think that it's extremely recent times that we've even had the privilege of discovering this. I can even probably date, I would really say from the time of Eustace Mullins, it dates. Because he's the one who named the names. It's not that people didn't talk about conspiracy before that, but they were maybe politicians who maybe mentioned it once or twice on the House of the Congress or something like that. But a man who sat down and named names and drew pictures and showed you the symbolism, that is a very recent phenomenon. And it was inspired by this man, this great being, who suffered so immeasurably they destroyed his life after 13 years in that place. And the message is this, that the mass opposition to these tyrants is relatively recent phenomenon, historically speaking. What we're doing is it's like a tyrant, you can imagine the tyrant is the tiger hiding in the long grass. We are slowly burning down the camouflage bit by bit, but this requires the hunter's instinct and the hunter's patience. So I don't want anybody else, I don't care what you're watching on that horror device, courtesy of the Queen, and the tremors of pain and suffering and showing you. Absolutely do not get pessimistic at all, because we are doing wonderful. The opposition has never been before. There has never been in history a true opposition to the forces that we're now discovering. Our forefathers died in factories and mines and barely lived to 25 years of age. They had no newspapers, no internet, no nothing. We have all of these things, and we have now begun to have a glimpse into the hidden establishment that's been preying over the human race for aeons of time. And this is what we need to stay focused on. The spirit of rebellion is on its way. If it's in you already, fantastic. If you have that plutonic, Uranian, Aquarian energy, brilliant. It will be operating in the world, strengthening the psychic emotional immunity. It means that we have to fall in love with the word no. That simple two-letter word would mean so much in the body politic, in society, and in our slaveries that we involve ourselves in every day, that we allow. Remember I told you it's not about have I been sold a lie, it's have I bought one? When you understand that dynamic, then you're saying no to all tyranny, no matter where it comes from. Vernon Howard said also, we can accept that God becomes man to save man, but we can never seem to accept man becoming God to save himself. And I'll leave you with this from the Hopi elders. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration, because we are the ones we have been waiting for.
sun is gonna keep on shining right aways on the horizon. My love for you will always keep on rising. Everything is gonna be alright tonight. Oh yeah, my love for you is gonna keep on rising. The sun's gonna keep on shining right next to the horizon. My love for you will keep on rising. Everything's gonna be alright. The sun's gonna keep on shining right next to the horizon. My love for you will keep on rising. Everything's gonna be
swimming in December, heading for the city lights. 975, sharing each other, nearer than farther. Scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, fostering in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now. We can drive a little adventure.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.